Thank you for joining us as we close our week 2 at the EPIC conference. My name is Mila Kolpashnikova, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology at Western University. And I will be chairing this seventh session of the EPIC conference, which is called Financial Wellness and Employment. So before we begin today's session, I'd like to note that I'm currently on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenapeywak, and Chan-Ogtan nations on lands connected with the London Township and Sombra Treaties of 1796 and the Dish of the One Spoon Covenant Wampum. This is the final EPIC conference session for 2025. Thank you for attending this session, and we hope that you were able to participate at least in some of other sessions this and last week. We also encourage you to check out the Age Well EPIC Conference webpage to download the EPIC Conference program, which includes the detail on each of the challenge areas that we have covered today, and there are also recordings available of previous sessions. I will begin today with my short presentation of this challenge area and also a little bit about my own research as well. And then we will have 2 research presentations with 5-minute Q&As, which will follow each presentation. And then we also have moving the dial presentation featuring as a supported startup, and we will end our discussion with a general Q&A. And finally, at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we will also have Mireille Gagnon-Roy, who will officially close EPIC conference at 2025 with some concluding remarks. So today, I'm really excited to introduce EPIC conference presenters. We have 2 presentations, one by Shieda Marashi and Rochelle Michaude, who will talk about taskIt, which is an interface design inspired by employment challenge, and Marie Levy and Ryan Thompson, who will present managing cognitive impairment at work, what we will learn from supporting experiencing and witnessing it. And finally, Carolyn Goodwin will discuss CPA Canada programs in the Moving the Dial presentation. All of the attendees are encouraged to use the Q&A box to ask questions, and you can also leave comments, but it's better to use the Q&A box, and you can also upvote the questions that others have submitted, and in that way you can actually make them go a little bit forward in the queue. The session is being recorded and will be available for playback. And these links are on the EPIC conference webpage and also on HWell YouTube channel. Should you choose so, you can also enable closed captioning for Zoom using the Zoom toolbar. So without the further ado, let's begin with my short introduction of our challenge area. So today's challenge area is financial wellness and employment. So despite the fact that older adults contribute a lot to the Canadian society, and this is both an experience and their expertise, we see that more and more older Canadians these days experience financial vulnerability and also discrimination at a workplace. There are 2 sides to this. One, we can understand this challenge area as trying to find ways to empower older people and their caregivers by improving their financial literacy, or also providing them with opportunities and programs to update their workplace skills. The other side is actually providing from other side, from the society side. So this can be social and technological structures in our societies that could actually make it easier for older adults and their caregivers to either step away from work or employment, or actually stay in employment should they choose to do so. And AgeWell thinks or contends that new technologies are one of the facets that can support older adults to remain in the labor force longer and also protect their financial well-being, and then also preserve their autonomy and independence by doing so. So, and technologies can also be a solution to help caregivers to balance their work and their care responsibilities, so these responsibilities do not overwhelm them. For our participants today who are new to AgeWell, AgeWell is a leading network of academics, industry partners, and members of public who come together to imagine our futures through technological solutions, and also in order to make a difference in the lives of all Canadians. I myself joined this network as an HQP a couple of years ago, and it was truly a transformative experience. And I will continue to learn a lot through my academic colleagues, industry partners, and older adults that I meet through this network. The AgeWell network is comprised of over 50 universities and research centers, and it connects more than 300 researchers and trains more than 1,500 HQPs. More than 5,000 older adults and caregivers are members of this network and helping us in building our joint vision of the future. My own research focuses on reducing time poverty and gender disparities in time, especially among older adults. So my overall research vision is actually to advance our knowledge on gendered burden of housework and caregiving, and also in general of time poverty, and then apply it to the knowledge, this knowledge to designing and implementing different policies and technologies that could help us alleviate these disparities. So my research on how older people use their time has shown that, so in this graph, for instance, we can see that in North American countries, including Canada, older people on average spend less time working compared to countries of East Asian societies. However, compared to to European counterparts, our older adults actually work longer hours. So these indicate differences in our policies, and also a little bit about the lower financial security among older adults in North America. And even if, say, we overall our societies are on the lower side of people continuing working in the older age, these gains are actually do not really translate into gains in quote unquote leisure time. So basically, even though we are working less in older age, we also spend more time on domestic work. And by domestic work, I mean housework. And this is basically means that even though that we spend less time in paid work, we spend more time in unpaid work. And the leisure time does not really see any gain. So we do not really spend more time on more pleasurable activities. So in my research, I have been interested in studying housework as a consumer of well, not as just as a person who actually does a lot of that myself as well. So, and housework is actually takes up a lot of time in our daily lives. So, for instance, my previous research also showed that housework burden not only increases with age, but also is quite gendered. So, on this graph, you can see that the older we get, the more we spend our time on housework activities. And those above 55 tend to do more housework. So just in general, I would where in the future I want to go with this research is to look into automation of housework and maybe using IoT technologies and robotics for alleviating the burden of older people in doing domestic activities. But enough about me. Let's go into our main event. Our first presentation is by Shieda Marashi and Rochelle Michaude. Shieda Marashi is a PhD student in systems design engineering at the University of Waterloo and Agewell HQP. Her research focuses on human-centered design and user experience of taskIt, a mobile task documentation app co-designed with people with mild cognitive impairment, aiming to improve digital accessibility and inclusive technology design. Rochelle Michaude, 45 years of professional experience and educational qualifications, have been in the fields of adult education, developing human resources, organizational development, staff training and development, counseling, coaching, consulting, project management, and research lead, with a special interest in workplace accommodations. Shieda and Rochelle.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Shieda. In this session, I'm going to present how we designed a mobile task management application named taskIt. taskIt was co-designed with people with mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia and was inspired by workplace challenges that people with MCI and dementia symptoms face at work. MCI and early onset dementia are increasingly diagnosed during working years with subtle cognitive changes. These cognitive changes may cause employees to face memory lapses, task difficulties, problem solving, communication, and difficulties in communication and learning. They also face barriers at work, such as disclosure fears, support inconsistencies, and lack of documentation on how things are done within their workplace settings. Having known about these challenges, we also found that the general accessibility guidelines that technology designers use are not, unfortunately, tailored to the needs of this population. And the technology design guidelines that exist are mostly targeting either older populations in long-term care settings or the caregivers of people with mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia, not the people living with mild cognitive impairment and dementia themselves. As a result, we found a research gap, which is a need for inclusive and user-friendly technologies that support this population. So we asked this research question: how can technology support people with mild cognitive impairment and and early onset dementia in communication, planning, and problem solving at work? We designed a research process inspired by the standard user-centered design process. The iterative process includes cycles of understanding and specifying users' needs, co-designing the application prototype, testing the design with potential users, and implementing feedback while refining the application design and its features and functions. During the first stage of the research, which was the needs elicitation phase, we aimed to understand the unmet needs of people with mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia at work. Through interviews and participatory workspace recreation sessions with 7 people with mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia and 2 support persons, we gained a deeper understanding of the memory, communication, and accommodation needs. The results of this phase helped us to understand and identify our research objectives and get an idea about the initial features and functions of the digital tool that we were going to design. After the needs elicitation phase, we started the co-design process. This process helped us narrow down design ideas and translate raw ideas into conceptual models, sketches of the interface, and interactive digital designs. Our research questions during this phase included, first, what are the main user flows of this application? And second, what features and functions might support task planning and management at work for people with mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia? And third, what are the expectations of people with mild cognitive impairment and dementia toward the design and functionality of such features and functions? Our findings included preference for simple visual tools and a dislike for complex tech. The key takeaways from our co-design process included that design must fit lived experiences and preferences of people with dementia and mild cognitive impairment. And second, the tasks within the application should be done in fewer steps compared to similar apps, and the input should be as minimal as possible. The design patterns should be repeatable, and the application should also include color-coded visual cues, prioritize recognition over recall, and that it should be cognitively accessible and have an emotionally supportive interface. Through the iterative co-design process, we also reached a novel design with simplified task breakdown and visual tracking, and optional shared view with employers or caregivers. And we also narrowed down these features. One of them was the memory assist or how-tos with minimal interaction notes and cues, and another thing that was traceable progress with how far the tasks are done. Since finishing with the co-design process, we have been testing and refining the application. Part of this refinement is done over 1 hour usability testing sessions where interested people get to interact with the application over a Zoom meeting and share their insights and feedback with us. We are also preparing to launch the application so people can test it on their browsers and mobile phones while doing their daily activities. And they can share their feedback with us about their application's usability. We are still testing, so if you are interested in participating, I would like to invite you to feel free to send me an email and participate in the diary studies or the 1 hour usability testing sessions. As for contributions and lessons learned, I also wanted to mention 3 key points. The first one is that we believe that this is the first application that is designed for productivity at work for people with mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia. The second point is that to avoid stigma, we decided that this application should not be only designed for people with mild cognitive impairment and dementia, but it should be for everyone. So from the beginning of the co-design stage, we also included people without mild cognitive impairment and dementia to make sure that this app is intuitive enough and usable enough for the general population as well. And the last key finding is that while general design principles offer a useful foundation, truly inclusive design for mild cognitive impairment and early onset dementia demands dedicated time, co-design, and deep attention to specific user needs. So thank you for listening. Now I'll pass on to the session moderator for the Q&A section.
Thank you very much, Shieda and Rochelle. So we have one question to you, and it is, what do you mean by an emotionally accessible interface? Could you please elaborate?
For this, actually, Rochelle gave me so many ideas about how to specifically design the content of the application, like how to phrase the words, for example. And like one of them was including my in front of some of the button and feature names, like for example my tasks, my how-tos, to show that these are customized by the user themselves. Rochelle, would you like to add
Well, yeah, I think
something?
part of that was to make it friendly, to own it and to make it friendly, user friendly. And when you make it user friendly, you're apt to use it, as opposed to just seeing a piece of technology that might lend itself to being frustrated. So it's being able to take it on as your own. And also part of the app is making sure that there's flexibility built into it so that you can customize what you need, because what's going to be helpful for one is not going to necessarily be helpful for another person. Something as simple we came up with were colors. For some people, as soon as I saw a particular color, like that's too much for me. And I think that being able to customize it meets the needs. And I think that was the goal of the project, was to meet the needs. So that's what that was about.
This is actually quite a neat idea because some of the say palettes etc. right just do not resonate emotionally to me as some others, and I think it's a pretty neat idea as well. So I would also like probably ask myself like how long did it take you to develop this, and like maybe just walk us through the process, maybe like some interesting things that you've learned while doing this project.
Are you asking me or Shader or both?
Both of you,
Or both?
yes.
Do you want to start,
So
Shader?
sure. I'll start and then pass along to Rochelle. Yeah, it took quite some time to co-design and also like to do the initial usability testings. And that was particularly not because of the nature of the research, but unfortunately because of the pandemic restrictions and the fact that it was very, very hard to reach people with mild cognitive impairment and dementia, especially those who were working in like during that phase. But yeah, like I would say that compared to other designs, like technology designs, this should be moderately time-consuming process, because we are getting deep into the user's needs and trying to understand why we should design everything that we design. So yeah, about like the rest of the things I would ask Rochelle to provide feedback, because she was involved with the co-design process from the very, very beginning of it.
Yeah, and I was intrigued by this when I read about the project, and because mild cognitive impairment is just one of those things that's very rarely discussed at work. It's just not part of the dialogue, and yet it is so prevalent. And people don't want to come forward with it, but it's so prevalent in so many different conditions or illnesses, whether it could be post-concussion, and it could be that it's temporary, it could be episodic, it could be permanent. And so people just shy away from that. So even now, I mean, there's people at work maybe experiencing if you're doing cancer treatments, people with depression, people who are grieving, venous congestion. I mean, the list goes on. MCI is real. Unfortunately, ableism is real in the workplace. So what happens is everybody shuts down, and you lose any type of sense of inclusivity. So when I saw this project, I was intrigued, and working with Shieda, we did this step by step. And just to, there's a reason I got involved, but it was also, I realized that the two of us were committed to the same thing, and that was doing something that was going to make a difference. And so that's what we were working on. And just like any other project, we needed to look at that. There's two factors. Number one, there's the task. Outside of the word, it's taskIt, we realize, but there's the task and there's the process. And that's what the two of us had to coordinate as we were walking this through. Shieda had her tasks that she needed to do and her requirements. But I had tasks, and I had requirements as well. And so that was the process piece, and we needed to talk and establish that. And for me, throughout all of this, there was that sense of inclusivity. There was, Shieda would accommodate me, so it was like walking the talk. She would accommodate me for, I'd say, certain times, for example, when I could meet that were better for me. I also let her know there might be times that it might be a last minute. I might not be able to. When we met in person, I needed a room that had that didn't have chemicals and so on. So it was an accommodation all the way along. And even as simple when I would say things like, no, the colors, these particular colors don't work. There was always a curiosity and an acceptance of what I was saying. So I felt that I always felt valued for whatever I was contributing. So I think between the two of us, we cemented that foundation of trust and being able to work and move forward with that and honoring both of our needs. And it just, it's been, for me, it's been an amazing opportunity.
Thank you so much. This is really fascinating. So there's one more question there in your Q&A, and maybe Shieda or Rochelle, you could respond to it during your time by maybe typing. And we'll continue with our second presentation today. So our second presentation is by Anne-Marie Levy, who is who holds a master's and PhD in neuroscience and applied cognitive science, and she is a lecturer in the Faculty of Science and a research associate at the Lazaridis School of Business and Economics at Wilfrid Laurier University. She also holds research associate roles at the University Health Network and Brock University, where she coordinates multiple programs of research. Her work focuses on enhancing healthcare for aging population and advancing the design, evaluation, and implementation of technologies that support aging in place. And she's today with Ryan Thompson, who is an accomplished executive with a strong background in healthcare administration and public sector operations. He specializes in data-driven service improvements, stakeholder collaboration, and inclusive leadership. Holding a master's in health services administration from Dalhousie University and bachelor's degree in agricultural biotechnology from University of Lethbridge, Ryan applies analytics to enhance service delivery and drive organizational impact. He's a dedicated mentor and a vocal advocate for inclusive employment practices. And they are here to do a presentation, and please take it away.
Thanks so much, Mila. Hi, my name is Anne-Marie. I'm delighted to be here today with my co-presenter, Ryan, so we can present the results of 2 case studies. So I'd like to start by thanking AgeWell for funding our 5-year COG at Work project and our amazing team of investigators, trainees, and collaborators who made much of this work possible. Ryan is one of these people. In addition to his professional accomplishments, as part of his advocacy work, Ryan volunteered countless hours to the COG at Work project as one of our key members of our advisory group. We were also honored to work closely with Roger Markle for 5 years. He was our collaborator. He's made so many impactful contributions to AgeWell. Before joining AgeWell, though, Roger worked with Ryan, who was his director at work when he was diagnosed with dementia. After Roger disclosed his diagnosis, Ryan supported his continued employment and eventually Roger's transition into retirement. We're grateful to have Ryan here with us today. He and Roger basically inspired the case study research that we're presenting. Their insights have been key to shaping our analysis and certainly for guiding our future work in this area. So I'm going to start by just kind of setting the context. Canada's population is aging. By 2030, 1 in 4 of us is going to be over 65. And this shift is also changing the face of the workforce naturally. Globally, workers aged 55 and up are the fastest growing segment. And in Canada, they make up over 1 in 5 workers now. But as people are working longer, it's important to recognize that some of the thinking and memory skills naturally decline with age. For some, though, those changes go beyond normal aging. Conditions like mild cognitive impairment and dementia, those can affect memory, focus, decision-making, and even your personality, which makes it a lot harder to manage everyday tasks at work. It's also why we also detect some of those changes earliest at work. So that's where the CogWork project came in. We've been exploring how organizations, how they can support the aging workforce and be more inclusive for people who develop cognitive impairment while on the job. So to understand how workplaces are responding to an aging workforce and the increased risk for cognitive impairment at work, we conducted case studies with 2 organizations. One was in the service industry, one was in the healthcare sector. And across these 2 case studies, over 2 years, we gathered over 96 interviews across all staff levels. And so today we're kind of going to share a 360 view of the experiences of managers who supported employees with cognitive challenges, like Ryan, managers who live with those challenges themselves, and then the coworkers who kind of assumed managerial responsibilities to help. So I want to start by kind of getting Ryan's perspective on this. Ryan, from your experience supporting Roger, how did you realize something might be going on with him?
Yeah, sadly, I did not ever consider that Roger was struggling with mild cognitive impairment or dementia until he disclosed this to me. I essentially missed all of the early signs, largely due to my limited knowledge about MCI or dementia, and more specifically, how to manage these conditions effectively in the workplace. In fact, at one point in time, the decline in Roger's work quality was significant enough that I, in fact, considered initiating performance management processes. And there was a particularly striking example was when Roger submitted a spreadsheet filled with errors and inconsistencies. And when I discussed it with him, he genuinely did not understand what had happened or how he had even produced or submitted that to me. So we both kind of laughed it off in the moment, but then I knew clearly there was something else going on. It was a few months later that Roger willingly he disclosed his diagnosis with me, and his disclosure of dementia was the only reason that we were able to effectively manage this in the workplace. So I've reflected further upon the signs that I missed that I should have noticed earlier in Roger's behavior, which was missed deadlines on work assignments, overly emotional responses to minor situations that historically weren't there. And then the third one, and we just talked up to like it was a bad day. And then the third one was just difficulty following instructions or adapting to new processes or technology, specifically with spreadsheets or things that he has not used previously in his work.
Right. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. I think your experiences really highlight the fact that it's really important to prepare managers through education and training to recognize these symptoms of cognitive impairment. Because I would argue, in fact, you knew Roger well. You actually didn't miss signs. You paid attention to what was going on in the sense that you could reflect and see those things, even the subtle changes, but you didn't necessarily attribute them to what was actually the underlying cause, because again, the preparation isn't there for managers to help support that. But that brings me to our first finding. So in addition to the importance of education and training, empathy really emerged as a key driver of workplace inclusion in our case studies. It's an organization's best interest to invest in developing empathic leadership by equipping managers with the skills and resources to foster inclusivity. In our interviews, and we have a couple quotes here, we learned empathic managers enhanced job resources. They offered social support, they reduced stress, and they created psychologically safe environments for employees. They also included employees, importantly, in the process of developing accommodations that work not only for them, but also the organization and met the organization's needs. The benefits to this approach were numerous. It encouraged employees to disclose a need for accommodations, which, as we heard Ryan say, is foundational to getting anything done. And this disclosure is a key component to kind of success in this process. And that willingness to disclose, as we found, was largely based on shared, trusted relationships fostered by this empathic approach. It also eased cognitive demands on the employees themselves because they could remain productive, they could feel valued with accommodations. One of the first quotes there kind of exemplifies this, where the employee says, "Empathy from my manager was key. She didn't just follow the rules. She understood my needs and adjusted my tasks without going through lengthy processes." Ryan, following his disclosure, you helped Roger continue to work and transition into retirement with dignity. How did you incorporate empathic leadership into your strategies there?
Yeah, thanks, Anne-Marie. I don't know if it was necessarily purposeful of incorporating empathic leadership into my management strategy, but my key focus was on Roger and what his abilities were. And so I first prioritized trust and transparency, actively listening to Roger, validating his ongoing strengths and contributions to the team. He was a supervisor at the time, and that was a critical part for him to still have the respect of his team. So by identifying and acknowledging the tasks and responsibilities that Roger could still perform effectively, I reinforced his confidence and sense of value to the overall team. Together, we collaboratively developed accommodations that leveraged his existing skills and ensured that he felt engaged and productive. I provided continued support, building upon our relationship of mutual trust and respect. As we actually worked out of different cities, so I was more present after his diagnosis, but most part it was a virtual relationship. So we used a phone a friend model. And on that, I always answered. That was my commitment to Roger, that if he called, it was never going to be a burden. I was going to always answer because I knew there was a reason he was calling. So ultimately, this approach enabled Roger to remain meaningfully involved, respected, and productive until he retired. Meeting employees where they are at is the key to success in managing MCI in the workplace.
Yeah, for sure. And those strategies related to kind of that frequent communication and collaboration kind of led us into our next finding, which was that successful accommodations almost always relied on ongoing communication between managers and employees. We kind of termed this kind of a continuous feedback loop that allowed both sides to kind of assess what was working, what's not working, and then in real time kind of adjust those accommodations. Flexibility was obviously key to that. Accommodations had to evolve. They had to match the fluctuating and quite often progressive symptoms of cognitive impairment or dementia. And we also found that no two cases were exactly alike. Everyone required very unique solutions to support. When there was continuous feedback, managers and employees were far more likely to get the supports they needed, far more likely to meet their objectives for the organization. And that built resilience amongst the workers, and trust in the organization is what we heard from our participants. Ryan, you mentioned that your organization moved away from traditional performance evaluations. We often heard they could be rigid, they were punitive to anyone who had accommodations. How did shift to a mentorship or coaching model influence your approach to supervising, Roger?
Yeah, I mean, shifting to more of a mentorship coaching model significantly enhanced my management approach, especially with Roger's diagnosis. It established meaningful ongoing communication, and that became essential for continuous feedback, allowing us to evaluate the effectiveness of any accommodations that we had put in place that we'd agreed on. And then we were able to adjust in real time to proactively meet Roger's needs. This model inherently prioritizes flexibility, recognizing that cognitive impairment fluctuate and progress uniquely for each individual. By engaging Roger in frequent, candid conversations, and we threw in some humor about what accommodations were effective, we developed solutions tailored specifically to his changing circumstances. My favorite question for Roger was something like, "What do you want to do?" So ownership of decisions or the action plan that we agreed on was a key to success. The mentorship approach strengthened Roger's resilience as he consistently felt heard, valued, and supported. Our collaborative efforts demonstrated genuine commitment and responsiveness that ultimately facilitated Roger's productivity and dignity throughout his transition into retirement.
Thanks for sharing that. So finally, we found that a mix of both digital and non-digital tech were being used to support accommodations. Most often, the accommodations for cognitive impairment were actually low to no tech. There were digital tools like automated reminders, voice-activated tools, but on the non-digital side, we saw flexible work schedules, frequent breaks, one-on-one training, task reassignments, working from home, modifying the environment so it was distraction-free. Ultimately, whatever the tech was, it needed to be adaptive so it could match people's needs, and the most effective tools were always ones that were really familiar to people. Thinking back, Ryan, when it comes to the tech that might have been useful for you to support Roger, was there anything you used or needed at the time that could have helped?
Again, I think fairly new in this game. I mean, as a manager supporting Roger, blended digital technologies would have been highly beneficial to optimize the effectiveness of accommodations and his overall productivity. Incorporating automated reminders, scheduling tools such as digital calendars, or what we just saw presented here would have definitely been helpful to help manage just some of the day-to-day and to reduce Roger's cognitive load by streamlining task management. Additionally, simplified user interfaces tailored specifically to his strengths could have minimized frustration by easing daily interactions. So, for example, we successfully utilized spreadsheet templates that eliminated the complexity of creating documents, but allowed Roger to focus solely on data entry and data analysis. And so throughout this approach, prioritizing the use of familiar technology further enhanced effectiveness by reducing barriers associated with potentially learning new systems or new processes.
So those are our primary three findings. And so ultimately, we found primary themes of empathy, ongoing feedback, flexible adjustments, and adaptive tech were essential to kind of creating that inclusive workplace that supports cognitive diversity, but also meets organizational goals. These takeaways in general, Ryan, do they resonate with your expertise and experience working both in diverse sectors and with diverse employees with different needs like Roger's?
Yeah, I think empathy is essential for sustainable and strategic inclusion and central to effective leadership. I mean, meeting employees where they're at through genuine understanding and flexibility really creates a foundation for meaningful accommodations. Employees must have ownership over their decisions and actions, promoting personal accountability and ensuring solutions align closely with their lived experiences and evolving capabilities. Clearly defining what success and failure look like is essential as well to establishing transparent benchmarks and outcomes. I felt with Roger, this approach ensured that he was able to clearly understand expectations, but to manage within those and then have an open feedback loop that provided clarity when course correction was needed to still perform the duties of his role. I mean, ultimately, authentic, empathic leadership combined with clearly defining goals and open dialogue significantly strengthens organizational resilience, inclusivity, and overall employee well-being.
Thanks, Ryan. Your insights and certainly your approach to supporting Roger through this has kind of emerged as kind of a gold standard for how organizations can educate and demonstrate cognitive diversity at work. So thank you again for sharing your story. And thank you all for your time and attention.
Thank you very much. So in the interest of time, we need to move to the next presenter. However, at the end, we will have like Q&A where we will all have an opportunity to ask questions. So the next presenter is Carolyn Goodwin, who is from CPA Canada. And Carolyn, she's a CPA volunteer-led initiative designed to empower Canadians with the knowledge and tools to make informed financial decisions. Maybe you could make a short introduction of yourself as well. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, first of all, on behalf of the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada, I want to thank you for inviting me to this epic AgeWell conference today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our financial literacy program. It isn't just meant for aging adults, as it's built for all areas of one's life, from childhood through to retirement age. As we navigate our finances through all of these stages, However, to this audience and those that support the aging population, there are many resources that we have built and promote at the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada that are relevant to you. They're mostly complementary, apart from our publications, which I'll show you in a few moments. But I want to walk you through a few slides and tell you a little more about our program and how you can access these wonderful resources for yourself and your clients. First of all, the Social Impact Department at CPA Canada recognizes that Canadians and newcomers to Canada need help managing their money. We know that our educational system has a problem. Financial literacy has not been mandatory for all school boards across Canada, although we see that starting to change in Ontario and Manitoba recently. We also know that total Canadian household debt in 2024 hit a $2.5 trillion. We know Canadians need help. They're borrowing too much, they're spending too much, and they're not saving enough. The good news, we at CPA Canada have a solution. We have a network of thousands of CPAs across this country that have expertise and experience and skills and are ideally positioned to help. CPAs have a tradition of helping others and giving back. So we wanted to tap into this and focus efforts on one important cause, which is financial literacy, to really make a difference. We offer a way for our CPA volunteers through the CPA Financial Literacy Program. They are leading the charge in terms of championing financial literacy in Canada and have presented many sessions in libraries, schools, agencies, and workplaces across this country to support this initiative. In fact, this past year, we organized over 2,500 of these sessions. Perhaps maybe some of you have even gone to one or two of them. Today, I want to show you how you can access these sessions for your organizations and clients and workplaces, and specifically our entire catalog of our adult education. To start off, we have a catalog of 35 sessions offered in both English and French. If you'd like to, you can even scan the QR code that you see on the screen with your mobile device, and you'll be able to browse our catalog and click through any of the topics to find more information directly on CPA Canada's website. Any organization can request one of these sessions to be presented by a CPA volunteer at your organization or virtually on a platform such as this. They are 100% complimentary and there are no strings attached. Each of these session topics have a PowerPoint presentation full of information, resources, and in some cases activities that will help you in your journey to learn more on these topics. They're approximately 45 minutes in length, and they have an opportunity to ask questions at the end to a CPA volunteer. My next slide is going to show you what categories that we present. So currently within this catalog, we offer sessions in the adult category, some for new Canadians. We do school workshops starting in grade 4. We have post-secondary sessions. We have sessions specifically geared toward businesses and a whole area targeted towards women and their journey of having children and investing. For today's presentation, I'm going to focus right in on that adult category, as this category has topics that are geared more for the aging population. So within this category, we have sessions on many subjects. So again, feel free to use that QR code if you want to go directly to the website to see more information about these topics. So the first one is on disabilities and accessing your benefits. It's really great information on all of the complexities of getting disability payments from the government. We have planning for your retirement, managing finances in retirement. We have a fourth one on, are you a good financial role model? Our fifth one is effective tax strategies. We do one on fraud protection, 10 healthy habits of financial management, managing your money, how to teach your kids about money. There's the 10th session we have in this series is all on estate planning. And finally, the journey out of debt. Keep in mind, these sessions are just a starting point in your financial literacy journey. They're not overwhelming at all. They just guide you and direct you on how to even start having those conversations and helping you along your journey. We all have times in our life where we don't think about it until we have to, like, for example, planning our estate or how we're going to even retire. Can we even afford to retire? What are some of those tax strategies that we should consider and think about? And more importantly, how to free from getting scammed and being protected from fraud. In fact, our most popular session is on the 10 healthy habits of financial management and the fraud protection session. So next, I'm going to share how you even can request one of these sessions. If you are mobile handy, you can click straight through to this page and choose a session that you're interested in. For this example, it's the first one on managing your money. Once you're on our website, you can click on Learn More, and it will take you to a description page. You'll learn more about what some of the objectives are to the participants. And then farther down this form, you can fill out a session, either for in-person or virtually. And by choosing the adult category, you will then be able to choose the corresponding session that is available in the program. We will then have a coordinator on our team here at CPA Canada that will assign a volunteer CPA to the presentation. It usually does take about 6 to 8 weeks notice to make this all come together. But these volunteers, they do have their own full-time jobs. Some cases, they are maybe even retired volunteers and want to give back, but it does take a bit of time to coordinate with their calendars. For anyone that is on this call that runs programs for adults, this is a really great opportunity to bring in guest speakers and talk all things financial literacy. And if you're not in a position right now to maybe book a session, but you just want to see what other resources we have, want to share with you that we also do a podcast. It's called Mastering Money. These podcasts started back in 2018, and we introduced financial literacy topics to the audio world. We have now completed 9 seasons, and each of these seasons have approximately 6 episodes. You can really pick them up any season at a time. They're quite evergreen content. And if you wanted to just choose one season to start off with, our most popular one really is season 6, which is on retirement, and also season 9, which is the dark side of money. And we talk to some people on fraud and getting scammed. So feel free to check those out anywhere you listen to your podcast. And additionally, I just want to also share one last slide. This is our publication that we have produced with subject matter experts. We have written some really great topical financial literacy books, all on various stages of your life. The most popular in this series is The Last Act, which is all about closing the book on your finances and what to consider as you write and plan your estate. All of our publications can be found on CPA Canada's website, which then link out to Indigo and Amazon. And you'll notice there's one here called Survive and Thrive. That is a free downloadable PDF publication. This one is full of amazing resources. It was just updated last year and is good for anyone across Canada that has maybe found themselves out of a job or looking to change their job or even start their own business. There's a ton of resources in that publication if you want to check it out. Thank you for your time today. This concludes the presentation on financial literacy resources from CPA Canada. But if you have any questions about the program, feel free to email financialliteracy@CPA Canada, and someone from our team, the social impact team, would be happy to reach out.
Thank you very much, Carolyn.
You're welcome.
So now we're going into Q&A session, and please post your questions in the Q&A box. And for now, I would like to ask a question to Anne-Marie and Ryan. So one of the things that I thought about this program is, so you have like a lot of very interesting results. And I was thinking like, how would what kind of like maybe tangible product you could produce, maybe not necessarily technologies, right? Maybe a leadership training or something. Basically, what have you thought about doing with the results that you have?
Right. So we have 2 incredible organizations who have dedicated time and stakeholders to helping us. We've been consulting with them regularly throughout the process to find out how to disseminate this information back to the folks at the organization who need to hear it in ways that work for them. So our recruitment doubled as education and training. I would deliver anywhere from 30 to 60-minute talks on the topic and recruit. That was kind of the first stage. The second stage now is developing things like infographics. We just produced an executive summary that's about a 5-page summary of the most poignant findings and recommendations for organizations across executive and leadership levels. The third will be likely a module that we will be able to give back to them once we work one-on-one with them to kind of highlight some of the key training focuses that they've requested to help help alter the culture and support managers and the executive leadership to take on that empathic approach and to kind of divest values within the organization that kind of empower the people who are supervising and supporting other people to take the approach that Ryan was describing. But Ryan, I would love to hear in terms of, as the manager, what works best, because you guys are, what we didn't talk about today was the absolute level of work and overwork that managers are under and the stress it causes them when they are coping with supporting people without the right resources. So what resources do incredible managers like yourself need to do that job?
Yeah, thanks, Anne Marie. Really, I think you nailed it with the first one. It's just understanding and a recognition, and with the aging workforce, just that appreciation of what people do bring to the table and how can we accommodate that, even though it wasn't necessarily a formal accommodation. And in Roger's case, it was a commitment that we had made to him as a long-term employee, but someone who had a lot to offer. And so I think it's that mutual trust and respect, and empowering managers that they can maybe do things a little bit different, and roll forward to support people in the best way that's meaningful. So education, empowerment, and a lot of flexibility and a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, and related to that, I think, Rochelle, maybe you could add, like, how, for instance, how managers could actually support people with MCI, like from your research that you did together with Shieda. What have you learned?
Part of what I'm going to be saying is also because of my own experience in my workplace. And I think I think that, just as I was talking about, there's the task and there's the process. I think the process that you're looking at work needs to be really analyzed, and it needs to be a safe place to be able to share, because people are afraid. And so what systems can you put in place that will be able to keep that person in a safe position? And because you're vulnerable. Soon as you start talking about your health and you talk about limitations, you're vulnerable and you don't want to lose your job. So I think that one thing is to also honor when people don't want to talk about it, because there's a reason that they're not wanting to talk about it, because they have experience perhaps with managers, supervisors, they know the organization, they've been there for a period of time, and they know if it's not a good thing. Because I've seen people being pushed to say, no, go talk to your manager, go talk to your man, and it did not work out well. So I think part of it is making sure that that culture is in place. And again, honoring the fact that not everybody toes the line either. From an organizational perspective, organizations have a job to do, and they need to get that done. I think winning people over is to say, well, there are other ways that we can meet that need to get the job done. But it does mean that part of our humanity and our flexibility needs to be put in place. So we can train managers to do that. The starting place is oftentimes those that you know are willing to look at that. It may not make a full system change in the organization, but if you pick, just like, Ryan, I'm so impressed, picking somebody that you know can set an example, I think is a really good start.
Shieda, do you have something maybe to add?
Just what I will echo what Rochelle just said, like allowing people to disclose information when they would like to, and being open to not disclosing information when they do not wish to. So yeah, like one of the things that we found was really important with people with mild cognitive impairment and dementia was that sometimes they wanted to share some topics or some preferences or requirements, but based on their time, based on their privacy considerations, and based on their situations, they didn't want to or they couldn't share as much as we researchers might have expected them to share with us. So I can imagine that this can be the same case in the workplace as well.
Thank you. And maybe final question to Carolyn. Have you thought about like how CPAs could perhaps have programs to support people with MCI or caregivers who are working with, who are providing care to people with dementia, or there are already programs in place?
So, I mean, we haven't experienced that with the financial literacy program, but definitely having an advocate. So someone that you can trust, because whenever you're talking about your finances and as you have some cognitive impairment, obviously you want to be able to trust those around you. So building up those relationships before you're in a state is going to be key, and making sure you have your POA, your organized and with your estate planning, because you never know when that time is going to hit where you might need some assistance.
Thank you so much. So for Carolyn, there's also a question in Q&A. Maybe you could answer it in text. So right now we are moving to our closing of our conference. And so thank you very much, all the presenters and participants for the session. And now I will turn things over to Mireille Gagnon-Roy, who will provide closing remarks for our conference. Thank you, Mireille. Could you turn on your microphone and your camera?
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mila. It's now time to close the 2025 EPIC conference. So my name is Mireille Gagnon-Roy, and I am a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Sherbrooke under the supervision of Véronique Provencher. So I'm from Quebec. As an EPIC ET fellow, it's an honor to close this wonderful event. Trained as an occupational therapist, I first completed my doctoral studies in brain injury, especially in traumatic brain injury, during which I work on a cognitive arthritis sport meal preparation at home using personalized cognitive assistance. And then I was really confident in how I wanted to work with the aging population and how to understand how we can help other adults in their daily activities using cognitive assistance. And thanks to a CHR scholarship, I am continuing my postdoctoral research, but now to develop a new technological solution aimed at facilitating life story sharing between older adults, caregivers, and the care team in a nursing home to make sure that meaningful and important information are shared and that older adults are really engaged in their care. The last 2 weeks have been really epic. 2 semaines d'innovation excitante et épique. Over the last 2 weeks, we have been joined by over 1,129 viewers across 15 countries and counting. Also not including this session or YouTube recordings. We will also like to acknowledge the exceptional contribution of older adults and caregivers with lived experience, including the many who have been joining us. Please join me in thanking all 32 presenters, including grad students, postdoc, research staff, and stakeholders with lived experience, for taking the time to inspire us with their exciting and collaborative work. We were equally thrilled with the leadership of our 8 Challenge Area Session chairs. As AgeWell and EPIC alumni, AgeWell should be proud to see you flourishing as early career researchers. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise, as well as being a source of inspiration for students as me and future researchers. This year, we highlighted 8 startups and programs that are making a real-world impact. Shout out to, I think I was just really thinking about what to say. So we highlighted 8 startups and programs that are making a real-world impact. So shout out to Wellbeing, NovaSense, Steadyware, Inclusia, WeTrack, Stronger You Senior Fitness, Amintro, and CPA Canada. Merci. While I was unable to attend all sessions this EPIC weeks, I missed none last year. And I can tell you that at that moment, I was blown away by how much the EPIC conference stand out from other conferences. Its atmosphere encourages us to transcend our own expertise and collaborate with government, community, and many with lived experience to truly understand the problem and develop innovative solutions to make a real difference. Providing us with so many examples of fruitful and authentic collaborations, the EPIC conference is such an inspiration to go beyond academia and constantly reflect on our own research and the people for whom we do develop technologies. By coming together and also considering the next steps, such as marketing, I am confident that we will continue to enable other adults to engage in meaningful activities and live in their chosen home, even when faced with physical and cognitive impairments, such as dementia. Don't forget that you may watch replays of any other session you missed. It is at least in my list to do. Links are on the EPIC conference webpage. Also, keep an eye out for announcement of the EPIC conference prize winners. Prize will be awarded by AgeWell for best and runner-up presentations. Shout out also to all the members who were involved in preparing and planning this wonderful event. So shout out to Sam, Juliette, and Alison. As we close one door, another one opens. We welcome you to join us for the AgeWell 10th Annual Conference in Montreal, October 2023. The call for abstract is open and registration is coming soon. See the link that was supposed to be there for details. We hope to see you there. Au plaisir de se voir en octobre prochain. Merci.